So after skipping last year's Hawkeye, I was waiting to return to a Marvel show when there was the chance of one being quite distinct and one that has the potential to really deliver a consistent story and character journey. It's no secret that I haven't been impressed with the storytelling and filmmaking in most of the Disney Plus shows, but now it's time to see if Marvel's Moon Knight will live up to the early statements that this is truly going to be different. And for the most part, it does do a lot of things very well, and I am mostly optimistic after watching this first episode. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing episode 1 of Moon Knight, discussing why it has the potential to be even better as the episodes go on. There will be brief spoilers from episode 1, which is entitled The Goldfish Problem, so if you haven't seen it yet, I would recommend watching it before checking out my review. But before I get into it, if you want to keep up to date on all of my uploads on Moon Knight and all the Marvel shows, then don't forget to support this video by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my review for Moon Knight Episode 1. So on the surface, Moon Knight is a character that could make for a riskier Marvel project than usual. Mark Spector, being another lesser known hero that Marvel aim to bring to screen, is one that's known for being their version of DC's Batman, but one that in reverse to that character wears a brighter costume, so he becomes quite scary, and when we add the mental health issues and Egyptian mythology into the equation, there's a huge potential for one of Marvel's and Mohamed Diab claimed that this show is going to be much different than what we've seen before in the MCU, and that the formula which we traditionally get in this kind of superhero property is less evident. So far, after watching the first episode, you can definitely feel that there's something much more character focused and brewing beneath the surface when it comes to standing apart from the rest. But in other moments, I still question the mix of tone and wonder whether the darker aspects of this show will eventually have the breathing room to really be more prominent, because so far the darker stuff is the best part of it. Like my previous experience with the Disney Plus Marvel shows, there are episodes and moments that really stand apart, but then there's those that drag it down because there seems to be a need to throw in the formulaic storytelling beats and moments of humour. All of the shows have had really interesting themes that they could explore even more, whether it's free will in Loki or the displayed grief in WandaVision. But this is squashed when the bigger influence and teasing of the MCU comes into play, not to mention how that dramatically affects the writing. Moon Knight Episode 1, while infused with moments of that early on, does suggest that it has the potential to grow into something more compelling and quite different that is also present in this episode. That's not to say the horror is completely gone. As the early trailers indicate, a demonic entity plagues Mark Spector in his every waking moment, and he is actually too aware of the horrors that nighttime can bring. But in episode 1, the character that we follow and the one who's really struggling is Stephen Grant. He's an overly British museum in and out of the different identities that inhabit his body. The drive in this episode is that Stephen's other personality is a brutal mercenary named Mark Spector, and he has somehow allowed Stephen to get away from him. That being said, Mark does allow himself to be Stephen again at times, and he sets up his life in a specific way that he can't manage, including that of the bed strap that probably won't be very effective. But as the episodes go on, I'm guessing we're going to see more of how both of these personalities work, because as we see from the ending of this episode, Mark can literally take over and save Stephen's life if he wanted to. It's very character focused, and getting that point of view in this first episode is one that is part scary and also quite mysterious. It's really the thing that makes this episode tick, and I really hope that the rest of the show can build that character driven approach out and not do what previous MCU shows have done, feeling the need to explore how it connects to the bigger Marvel universe and enforce too much comedy. I guess WandaVision is the slight exception, but even the final episode of that became more like the formulaic stuff we've seen and teased where Wanda's character was going. I can see us getting that at the end of Moon Knight, but if this series keeps the more interesting aspects of its story and tone at the centre, then that will reflect in quite the positive result. While Moon Knight has its weird off-kilter tone that is reflective of its source material, there's the very jarring shift between horror and slapstick comedy that at times feels quite messy. Yes, it's a part of Steven's personality, but the concept of the show makes me want to see the full chaos and more brutal aspects of what should be felt. I kind of agree with those who wanted this to be more like the MCU's Daredevil, because it honestly feels like it could be that and do it really well. But instead, some of the key moments are lessened by the Disneyfied and Marvel formula that seeps through. This for instance, but Moon Knight as a character, a show, and the ideals and themes that go along with it would work better if it distanced itself from that. However, I will say that more than others, it has shifted towards the seriousness of the issues a bit further. It pays off to a decent degree. I'm just worried that when looking back at examples of the other shows I've mentioned, that it could go off the rails. But I really hope that going forward, the tone can move towards the darker stuff we are seeing, because that is the right way to go here, and it's working quite successfully whenever it's the focus. Who knows, but one thing I will say is that the execution of different personalities we've seen so far is definitely not aiding the potential it has. The personas and overall tone is jarring, and I hope that can be evened out as Steven and Mark are explored to greater amounts. I will say that the brief appearances of Ethan Hawke though have been the most consistent so far, and that works with him being this intense cult leader who often hints at the much darker direction this could and should take. Although answers that come later could help to bring this all together and put a bigger emphasis on the mental health issues that one goes through with this disorder. Again, this may all be redeemed once we know a little more. While this first episode doesn't give us the full answers of the series, it does seem like the kind of story that could use a flashback episode or a messing with time to give us impactful answers surrounding how these personalities work. But what I really love about episode 1 is that in certain moments it does feel very connected to the larger MCU storyline. It's the kind of story and important character study that doesn't need to throw in a reference to the Thanos snap or something that's happened in the past. This show can be used to display the troubling character of Moon Knight, but one that going forward will be strong in the bigger universe story because of what we see in this individual show. The focus on his character's struggles and grasp on his own reality is the intriguing aspect of this first episode, and with a few fixes to the tone and pacing, going forward this could be a really great show. That's if the traditional Marvel elements aren't heavily introduced, ultimately bogging down a potentially unique character study. I am hopeful that this will be the case, and the final moments of Moon Knight episode 1 suggest the greater darkness is still to come. But that was my review for Moon Knight episode 1. Much like the central character, the episode isn't perfect, but I do appreciate that beneath the surface, you can really feel the risks that it's taking. I'd like for it to get out of the safe bracket even more so, because it is thrilling to see a darker and weirder character in a universe of much safer expressions. Behind some of the tonal flaws, there is the idea of a much stronger show to come into the light, and I think with deeper and darker character exploration, which this show is supposed to have, we could get something truly great. We get this briefly in the episode's chaotic sequences, which is definitely a welcomed creative stamp from an editing perspective that applies fittingly to everything the character is feeling and trying to prevent. But then there's still the feeling that this particular show can make everything feel a little more different than usual. Still, this is only the first episode, and hopefully the style will evolve as we dive deeper into the journey of Steven Grant and ultimately Mark Spector. As the audience learns more about Spector's dark past and why it's personal, the story will likely become more compelling. I'm giving Moon Knight Episode 1 a rating of 7.5 out of 10. But to those who have already seen the episode, what do you think of Marvel's Moon Knight, and do you agree that it's a good start with the potential for much more? It's all subjective, and I appreciate the range of reactions and reviews, so let me know down below in the comment section what you personally thought towards the episode, alongside things that stood out with your first impressions. For more videos surrounding Marvel's movies and Disney Plus shows, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.